Hello again, everybody. This is attorney Mark Brunner. Thank you so much for joining me again today here on Talking Texas Law. Today, let's talk about what we call here in Texas community supervision, better known as probation. So I'll be calling it probation from here on out, even though it's technically known as community supervision. Really, nobody in the know uses that term. So, what is community supervision? And more importantly, what is the difference between what we call deferred adjudication probation and regular probation, or also known as straight probation? Well, probation is a series of agreements that you are making with the court, saying that you will do and not do certain things. There's generally, for a felony or a misdemeanor, anywhere between 20 to 25 to 30 different conditions. A lot of them are standard, some of them are offense specific, some of them are tied to that defendant very uniquely. Again, a lot of things to do and not do while you are on probation or community supervision here in Texas. Things such as don't break the law, report as directed, don't use drugs, take whatever community service you need to do, classes, evaluations, ongoing counseling or therapy. Let them know the probation department where you live, where you work, allow them to possibly come visit you at your home or elsewhere to verify that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, etc. A whole laundry list of things to do and not do. So these are things that you are saying to the court that you will follow, conditions that you will follow at your peril. If you do not follow those conditions, you could be brought back into court to answer for why you haven't done what you said you were going to do to the judge. And backing that up is the risk of further county jail time, or if your probation is what's called revoked, possibly going back to county jail permanently, or at least for the duration of a misdemeanor sentence if it's a misdemeanor, or being sent off to prison if it's a felony. So again, conditions you must live by if you want to continue to stay out of jail. So probation or community supervision here in Texas takes really two forms. Someone who is pleading to probation in Texas, it's either going to be a plea for what's called deferred adjudication or what's called straight or regular probation. Kind of the same thing. So what's the difference between the two of them? Okay, well, let's talk about what's the same. The same is that experience. All those conditions that I just talked about, those are the same whether you're on deferred or a straight probation. The experience of being on probation is the exact same. When you go to your probation officer once a month or whenever, there's not a line that says people who are on deferred go here and people who are on regular probation go here. Again, the day-to-day, month-to-month experience, all the rules are the same. What really is the difference is the impact on your criminal record now and in the future. Okay, for a straight probation, that is a conviction. So if you're going on probation and it is a straight, or let's say what's called regular probation, that is a conviction starting that day. A conviction on your record. It's final. There's really nothing you can do about it in the current state of Texas law from that point forward. So you're not going to jail. It is a suspended sentence. So you could go to jail or prison if you violate the conditions of your felony or misdemeanor probation. But you are then, again, you have a conviction on your record from that point forward. Let's contrast that with what's called deferred adjudication probation. Deferred adjudication is a suspended sentence. It is a deferral or a holding off of a conviction. If someone is on probation for a deferred adjudication offense, that offense, they are not found guilty. It is not a conviction on their record. If they successfully complete their deferred, it will never be a conviction on their record. That is very important. So that is the way that you can go to keep something off your record. The arrest may still show in your record. The fact that you were placed on probation, placed on deferred may still show, but you are not going to be convicted of that offense. So very important for a misdemeanor or a felony. Now, there are certain offenses where you can only get deferred. There are certain offenses, such as DWI in Texas, where you can only get a straight probation. And so it pays to have someone, be able to guide you through the process about which is which. But again, that experience of being on probation is the same here in Texas, whether it's deferred or a straight probation. What really is impactful is the fact that deferral is held off, and you might be able to work your way through the system if you're successful and never have a conviction on your record for that underlying offense. Now, here's where it's going to get a little deeper. Here's another big difference between the two of them, and this is really applicable on the felony side. On the felony side, a straight probation is again, like we said, it is a suspended prison sentence. We're talking about a felony straight probation. The maximum they can put you on probation for, they can suspend, is a 10-year sentence. So if you have a straight probation in Texas, felony, and you violate that probation, the most they can do to you is put you in jail for up to 10 years. Your probation conditions may be lower than that. You may have negotiated a different deal. But at maximum, on a straight probation, the most they can give you is 10 years. If it's a third-degree felony and higher. If it's a state jail felony, it may be lower. We're talking about third-degree, second-degree, first-degree. Let's contrast that with a deferred adjudication. With a deferred adjudication, if someone violates their conditions of probation and they are brought back before the court on a deferral, that judge at that time has the option of revisiting the entire range of punishment for that original offense. Let's say someone is placed on probation for a first-degree felony drug case. They could be looking at 5 to 99 years or life. Say they've got a lot of drugs in their possession. One defendant, 5 to 99 years, first-degree felony drug possession, they take a straight probation. 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, they mess it up. They come back to court. The court adjudicates them guilty, says they violated their probation. That person can only get up to 10 years. Let's talk about somebody else who, same offense, first-degree felony, but this time they took deferred. First-degree felony deferred, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, they come back to court, they violated their probation. Well, that judge can now look at the entire range, from 5 to 99 years or life. So deferred sometimes comes with its own set of advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is it's not a conviction. If you successfully complete, it will never be a conviction on your record. That's a good thing. However, it comes with that significant risk of, if you violate it, the judge can be looking not at a possible 10-year sentence, but the entire range of your original alleged offense. Now again, that mostly applies to people who are facing felony deferred, but it's technically the same for misdemeanors, where you have a suspended jail sentence. But misdemeanors, again, the math is so different, because no matter what misdemeanor you have in Texas, they can only put you in a county jail for up to 1 year. So the math and the risk is a lot different. Last critical element of deferred versus regular probation discussion is the ability to, perhaps in the future, get that off your record. If you have a straight probation, again, you're convicted, it's on your record, there it is, you're essentially stuck with it. With a successfully completed deferred adjudication, there may be, depending on the offense, there may be a way to file for what's called a petition for non-disclosure. Depending on the offense, again, you may qualify for this petition. This petition will, if granted later in the future, allow you to seal the records of your probation from public view. Now, the government, the police, law enforcement, prosecutor's office, they can still see that you were placed on deferred adjudication and successfully completed. But the public, i.e. an employer, someone like if you're applying for the lease of an apartment, let's say, nosy neighbor on the internet, all those records would be sealed from public view. It's not perfect. It's not the same as an expunction, but a motion for non-disclosure can go a long way to helping you get your life back on track and not be haunted by an old case from your distant past. So a lot of different things to consider here in Texas when we're talking about community supervision, the experience of being on a deferred adjudication probation, all the pluses and minuses, as for all the pluses and minuses and risks and pitfalls on a straight probation. So with that in mind, I hope you've learned something about how we do community supervision here in Texas. As always, this video is being offered for educational and informational purposes only. This is not to be construed as giving legal advice, and this is not a legal consultation. And unless you're already a contracted client of mine, I'm not your lawyer. This is Attorney Mark Brunner, and thank you so much for joining me today on Talking Texas Law. I'll see y'all next time.